Welcome to another League video. Today I have something a bit different for you. If you have watched my Unranked to Diamond series, which is what I normally upload, in this video we are going to talk about how to master any champion in League. I'm a support main, and recently I've found the urge or the desire to play and master LeBlanc because I want to play her as support in Ranked. So then the question is, how do I do that, and how have I done that? Because I would say at this point that I'm actually very comfortable with LeBlanc and comfortable enough to the point where I can play her in Ranked. So I have mastered her to that extent. To master her fully, I need to play a lot of Ranked with her, and I'm not at that point yet, but I am at a point where I am very comfortable with her and can play her in Ranked. So how did I do that? Which steps did I follow or did I take to master her to that point, to the point where I feel like I can actually play her confidently, pick her confidently in Ranked? That's what we're going to talk about today, because the tips I will give are generalized and can be applied to any champion. The first step to master any champion is to find a champion that you like and then sticking with that champion. A lot of people rotate between 3, 4, 5, or even more champions. Or they just play random champions that they think look cool. And if they do that, if you do that, it's going to be hard to master any champion, because to be able to refine the mechanics of a champion, you need to play that champion a lot. It's just that simple. So the first step, again, is to find a champion you like and then sticking with that champion, not playing a lot of random champions. I think 2 champions at once, that's fine too. But more than that, I don't recommend. So playing 2 champions and trying to master 2 champions at once, that's fine, but no more. Secondly, I recommend finding the rune setup used for the champion or champions you want to master. And you can find the rune setup on Mobafire, for example. After finding the rune setup that the champion uses and reading about the runes and how they work, the next step is to go into the practice tool like I have here. And then in the practice tool, you should read the tooltip for each ability of your champion. And also the passive. The next step is the more fun part, which is to actually use your champion and practice different combos. And before practicing the combos, I recommend going on YouTube and looking up combo guides, so you can see, just get a quick reference for how the champion is played, and then from that you can adapt it and tailor it to your style, so you can play the champion the way you want to. Looking up a combo guide is simply a reference that you can use to better understand the different combos and how they work together. And you might be wondering what that looks like in the context of LeBlanc, for example. So let's say I look up a combo guide and I now want to practice that combo with LeBlanc. And I want to use a combo that is effective and practical and can be applied in a ranked game. Okay, let me give you a quick example. This is something I learned early on with LeBlanc. First, let's read how Electrocute works. Hitting a champion with 3 separate attacks or abilities within 3 seconds deals blah 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 bonus adaptive damage. The first part is the most important. 3 separate attacks or abilities. That's what I need to be able to proc, meaning activate Electrocute. And let's say I'm level 1, and let's say I rank or level up my W, which is a dash. This is my W. So now the question is, how can I use the knowledge of Electrocute with the knowledge I have of how my W works, which simply put is just that it dashes. It's a dash, and if I hit something at the end of the dash, that champion will take damage. It could be a monster or a champion. So if I hit the dummy with my W, as you can see, it takes damage. And to be able to proc Electrocute, again, let's say I'm level 1. All I need to do is auto W and then auto again. Let's see what that looks like. As you can see at the end there, I procced Electrocute, and it dealt a lot of damage. So knowing this specific combo will let me play LeBlanc effectively level 1. And this is the crux of what it means to master a champion. You need to understand the abilities of your champion, and you need to understand the rune setup that you're using, and then you need to understand how those work together. And then based on that, you can play the champion and combo abilities effectively so that they play into the runes you're using. You've now looked up combo guides on YouTube and you've practiced a few combos in the practice tool. The next step is to continue to practice. Those combos in the practice tool for around 30 minutes is what I recommend. And then after that, I recommend looking up item builds, which you can also do on Mobafire or on YouTube. After looking up item builds, I want you to buy those items in-game and actually try to understand how they work better. So not just reading about them, but actually using them in-game. And that could be in the practice tool or in a real game, in a normal game, not a ranked game, because you're not at the point yet where you should be playing the champion in ranked. So let's say you're in the practice tool and you've read about how to build a champion. Let's use LeBlanc as an example to better understand why that is so important, why the build path or the items that you get is so important to understand. So let's see. A core item on LeBlanc is Storm Surge. And Storm Surge, let's read what it says first. Dealing 25% of a champion's maximum health within 2.5 seconds applies Squall to them. And Squall deals magic damage. So we now know that we have Electrocute, where we need 3 separate attacks to proc it, to deal more damage. And now, in addition, we have Squall from Storm Surge, which also deals more damage. And what this means in short is that we want to deal as much damage as possible in as short of a time span as possible. And that will proc both Electrocute and Storm Surge. So let's see what that looks like and how we can combo that. For example, with LeBlanc, I can do EQR W. Maybe W is not even necessary. Let's do EQR and see how that works. EQR. Okay, that's Squall at the end there. So I proc my Electrocute, it's on cooldown, and Storm Surge is on cooldown. So EQR is enough to proc, at least on the dummy, to proc both Electrocute and Storm Surge. If it were a really tanky champion, then Storm Surge might not proc, because as it says, I would have to deal 25% of a champion's maximum health within 2.5 seconds. So against a tanky champion, Storm Surge is not necessarily as effective. But anyway, it still is a good item for burst damage, and as LeBlanc you want to be a burst mage anyway. But we're kind of straying away from what we need to focus on, which is understanding your build and understanding what the items that you're building do. Because by understanding what they do, that's how you can play your champions, or the champion that you're focusing on and want to master effectively, because you can chain your abilities with the runes and then with the builds, or vice versa. Point is, it's all connected. Your runes are connected to your abilities are connected to the build that you're using. So by understanding how those 3 things come together, you can play your champion effectively. So you now know the runes that you're using, you understand why you're using them, you understand the abilities of your champion, and you understand what you're building and why you're building it. The next step is to play, and play a lot. Play swift play, and Also going into the practice tool whenever you feel like it. Like, for example, maybe you go into Swift Play and you play a game and you feel like, you messed up a combo or something. Maybe you want to go into the practice tool for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes and practice that combo or those combos and really refine them, get more comfortable with them, and then going back into Swift Play. And at this point you might be wondering, so when am I ready, or when can I say that I've mastered the champion or that I'm comfortable? How can I know that I'm really comfortable enough to play the champion in ranked? And my answer to that is to use Mastery 6 as a reference point. As you know, when you play a champion, you gain a certain level of mastery with the champion, and that's indicated in the game. And at that point you can play the champion in ranked. Ideally 7, Mastery 7 or 8 is what I recommend, but 6 is definitely enough. And those are the steps to be able to master any champion in League.
Nothing shall distract. Hey, hey, hey!
Dealing with you is
Minions have spawned.
open.